We are live. It is Bronx Tales Live on a Sunday night. Today is July 27th, 2025, and we are going to break down the dump. We're going to continue to break down this dump. What's wrong, buddy? And I just got live, and now Bronx is crying at me. It's okay, Bubby. You want the. 1 second, sorry. Whoops. Not sure what he's crying for. It's okay, buddy. Lay down. It's okay. He should be good. He ate, went potty, all that stuff. All right, so I haven't said this in a while. I usually say it or have a pop up for it in my pre recorded videos, but I do want to just make sure everybody knows everything we talk about is our opinion and alleged. We don't know any of these people in real life, so we just are going through the dump that everybody else is going through to try and find a rhyme or a reason to this entire case, because it seems like every single thing just doesn't add up. And us over here, just like everybody else, is just trying to get the answers, trying to make it work in our heads and get some understanding and closure. And I mean, it's been a long time. It's been almost 3 years since this case first took place, and it's been a long time. It's been a roller coaster of emotions, whether you're close to the case or not. I mean, we can still be emotionally invested in this case when we spend so much time, and you feel like you kind of started to get to know the area and what have you. Anyway, so I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows this is our opinion and alleged. This stupid fly is back. I haven't seen it all day, and now it wants to just show up in this live. Anyways, one thing I wanted to talk about real quick is yesterday in the live, when I was talking about the amount of times Brian Koberger was said to have driven by the victim's home, the law enforcement wants to say that Brian Koberger hit off of a cell tower where he okay, there I'm like, where's my chat? There it is. So Brian Koberger, I was talking about yesterday, hit off a cell tower 23 times, and they said, this cell tower is only up to 100, what is it, meters? Anyway, I know it's a little bit over the length of a football field. So that's as close as he ever got to the house in the times that they were monitoring, his phone or got the data off of his phone. And 16 of those 23 times he was actually going to Target. There are only 2 cell towers in Moscow. So your odds of hitting off one or the other, you're going to have to hit off one or the other. And the one that Brian Koberger was hitting off of was not even the tower that services 1122 King Road. So in the live yesterday, there was someone that was upset with me because they said that I said Brian Koberger never drove by the victim's house. And I just wanted to correct myself. If I did say that, I'm not sure that I did. But if I did, I wanted to apologize, because obviously I wasn't there just like anybody else. I don't have a clue if he drove by the house or sat in their bathroom. I don't know. So I just wanted to correct myself if I did say that. I don't know if he did or did not ever drive by their house. I don't have a clue. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that I did not mean to say never. And I wanted to say real quick before we get started, sometimes I say this in my pre-recorded videos, which is, I don't know if Brian Koberger did this or not. He very well could have done this by himself while playing the harmonica. I have no idea. But what I do know is this investigation was crap, and law enforcement now at the end of this has come out and said, we don't have any evidence on him. Basically, we don't have any connection. We don't have, this wasn't sexually motivated. We don't have this. We don't have that. We don't have the answers. We don't have anything other than that DNA in a car that could possibly resemble his or be his. We don't know, though. That's it. So just like everybody else, we feel like there's more to this and that Brian could possibly, in our opinion, be a patsy and something bigger is going on. We know how powerful universities are, and that university probably helps fund many of the things in the entire state and not just the community. So all universities carry so much power in each state. It goes beyond what you even think it does. It's wild. So I just want to make sure that everyone knows. I'm not sure. Yeah, I doubt there even was an investigation. It looks like there wasn't much of one done. Any lead or tip we have seen thus far has not been followed up on, has not been looked into. The people sometimes aren't even called back. And on top of that, anytime they did call a person back and looked into a tip, probably because they pretty much were forced to, they can't just ignore a tip, right? Which I think they did here and there. Anyways, they don't record them. They didn't record whether it was body worn camera or recording just on their phone, whatever. None of these were recorded, any of the tips, any of the callbacks. And that's wild to me. On top of that, we have reports for 11/13, November 13th, the day of the crime. We have reports on that day being written literally 3 months later. I mean, how well can you really recall things? You can remember the big things, but what's so important, I feel like, are the little things, are the things left unsaid. That's where we find so much importance. So that's what we're just trying to do, is find those little things that can maybe try and help this make any sense. So I just wanted to say that little housekeeping stuff before we get started. It is terrible how little they cared, but wanted to portray themselves like they cared so much and they were so involved. No, you guys were crap. You were lazy about your investigation. You remind me of a super small town that's never had an unaliving, which we know is not true. They even said in the book, one every semester, whether it's an accident or not, but they should know how to handle an unaliving, whether it's 1 or 100 in the same room. They should know how to handle that, but it seems like they just don't, and they just didn't really give a shit. They wanted to make sure that the university knew first, and I think they took their directives from whoever in the university gives all the directives. You can just think who that might be. Anyway, hi Bianca, hi Rachel, hi Pokey, hi Donna. Super impromptu live. I wasn't sure if anybody was going to be able to make it because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make it today. So I understand if you're going to be listening on the replay crew today. Totally understand. I appreciate you either way. All right. So I had a request to, hi Nicole. Welcome. I had a request to go over page file 77 one more time, a little bit slower, because there might be some importance to this. And I don't think this was properly investigated either and could hold some weight. So this was written by James Fry, which is strange, number one, because we don't often see any reports from James Fry. As even stated in the book, he's supposed to delegate, right? Everybody else, hey, sweet and salty, everybody else is supposed to be taking care of all this stuff. And he actually wrote this report, which I find just a little bit strange. This is an interview with a random person named SP. I'm not sure they're super involved in this case, other than this tip. And they were born in 1953. And this one says, on December 13th, 2022, at approximately 8 o'clock, I interviewed SP in I think it's Boise, Idaho, at the blank. Caller called me several days earlier to report some information he had regarding the homicide. I asked him if the information he would be sharing would be dealing with one person. P told me that it would. I asked him if I could get the individual's name. He told me the person's name was G or G. So I don't know who this G is. Because it looks like a short name and then a longer name, I am going to say it could possibly be Gabe or Gabriel. Um, Nobody really knows who this person is. Nobody's figured out who G or G is, which is the same person, but I think it might be Gabe or Gabriel. So we're just going to call him Gabe. He told me the person's name was Gabe, later identified as GM. P told me he did not know the individual's last name, but believed he knew where he lived. P told me he lived in the blank apartments. P told me this apartment is just off of blank avenue, then turn on to Linda Lane, and then right onto blank street. And the apartment is across from the blank. P told me Gabe lives in the blank apartments. P began to explain to me that he had done a lot of work for DK, who is the prior owner of blank. P told me he has been a friend of the family for many years and he's done handyman jobs in the past for D. P told me in 2020 he drove D, his daughter L, and Gabe up to blank to a place the family goes to have a vacation almost every year. P told me after they got there, R, who is one of D's sisters, D might be Dylan. That's my opinion. This is alleged. D might be Dylan. I know Dylan does have sisters. I'm not sure if this is Dylan, but it could be. Got into an altercation with a male who was camped near where they were. P told me it was a heated argument, but everyone eventually went back to their campsites. P told me later in the evening he noticed R and L were walking past the male's campsite, so he went up on the hill where he could observe and make sure nothing was going to happen. P told me he had been up on the hillside for several minutes in the dark when all of a sudden Gabe just appeared out of nowhere. P told me it startled him for a minute because he never heard or saw where Gabe came from. P told me Gabe pulled out a knife to show him. P told me this was hunting style knife. P told me he had spoken to Gabe, who had showed a great interest in having a career in the military. I asked P if he could describe the knife to me, and P told me it was a typical 7-inch blade hunting or skinning knife. So we know the knife that was used in the crime, compared to a 4-inch blade, law enforcement said, no, that is not the type of knife that was used. It was much bigger than a 4-inch K-bar. They compared it in a different tip where they found a knife. And so a 7-inch blade might be the same size as the K-bar that was used. P told me he had heard that Gabe's grades in school had dropped and that L had been extremely verbally abusive to him. L, I believe, is Gabe's mother. Now, what's interesting in this tip is, as we continue to read, it's going to explain that most people that know these people think that L, which is Gabe's mom, treats Gabe horrifically. So bad. And that's interesting to me because the females that were unalived and how they were unalived might show that it could have been somebody who absolutely despises women and wants to unalive women because of how his mother treats him, We know this serial unaliver, Ed Kemper, he unalived people because of the way his mother treated him. And one day he had unalived tons and tons of people, and then one day he decided to unalive his own mother. And after he unalived his own mother, his feeling of wanting to unalive females stopped because of the way his mother had treated him when he finally, at the very end of his spree, unalived his own mother. His urges to do that again stopped. But he had also been caught and sent to prison after that. So obviously, that's from his mouth. We don't know if that's 100% true or not, but that's what he says happened. So in this case, somebody who's treated really, really poorly by their own mother could have an urge to unalive females. I think that's how that works a lot of times with male unalivers, serial unalivers, is they're treated bad by their mom. I asked how Elle and Gabe would travel to Moscow from Boise. P told me he believed they would ride the bus when they arrived. P told me when they stayed in Moscow at Dee's house, Gabe and his sister would stay in the basement and Elle would sleep outside or in one of the two sheds in the backyard. P told me the significance of this was that Gabe would keep his knives in the basement of Dee's house, in the wood pile that was outside, or in one of the two sheds in the backyard. P told me around the end of May or sometime into the middle of June, after COVID was letting up, he was at the Mad Greek having a late lunch or early dinner. P told me this was on a Saturday or a Sunday. P told me he had ordered a glass of wine, which he is sure that Ethan brought him. He told me he is not sure if Ethan worked at the Mad Greek or if he was just helping out. P told me a bit later he noticed that Gabe had come into the restaurant with possibly Dee, who is Gabe's cousin. P told me Xana and Madison had gone over to Gabe's table, and Ethan later joined them. P told me it appeared to be a heated conversation, but he could not tell what it was about. P suspected it may have had to do with the cancel culture and that Gabe was stirring them up with conservative comments. P told me Gabe left without eating a thing. Later that night, around 9 or 10 p.m., P was at Dee's house in his backyard. P said that Elle was extremely drunk and she was yelling at Gabe. P said she stated, "You're just a loser and you're going to spend your life in jail. You are ruining your life." P was not sure what Elle was referencing when she said this. P told me Gabe left right after this altercation and he did not see him again. He said that Gabe goes on long walks and does not return until the early morning hours. P told me he was over at Dee's the next morning picking up some tarps from a job he had been doing, and Gabe showed up. P told me he asked Gabe what he does after he leaves when his mom is yelling at him, and Gabe told him he goes over to the college. P told me Gabe believes the college is to blame for how his mom is. So for how his mom is treating him or has always treated him, Gabe blames the college, the university. P explains that Dee went to parties at the college and began drinking. P told me he does not know for sure, but believes that Elle may have been raped at one of the college parties. So Gabe thinks that his mom is a crap person towards him because when she was younger, she went to that college and had been R-worded. P told me he asked Gabe about the conversation that took place at the Mad Greek restaurant. P said that Gabe told him that he had followed the girls to the Mad Greek from the college. So he followed Xana and Maddie all the way to their work. Gabe told P that the two girls were lesbians. If Gabe is, older or very conservative or whatever, along those lines, I could see him maybe thinking any of the younger age girls, like young college age, 19, 20, 21, I could maybe see how he would think they might be lesbians, because I can see the girls being like real touchy when they're joking, or having a conversation, touching each other's arm, or being silly, or messing with each other's hair. Some girls smack each other on the butt, just being silly, stuff like that. And I could see where maybe somebody who doesn't understand that type of behavior, where it's just friendly, being silly with each other, might take that as actually being lesbians or a sexual thing, just totally misinterpreting what their like body language is towards each other. Anyway, Gabe told P that the two girls were lesbians. Gabe told P he had went back to the girls' house, and when they came home, he was inside the house and made the statement, "They had no idea that I was there. I could have killed them all if I wanted to." So Gabe is literally admitting that he was inside Xana and Maddie's home, and they had no idea. And I'm wondering if this was one of the times that the door was open when they got home. This is wild. We've gone over this one before, but I didn't do it so slow. I guess I thought maybe he was talking about that he was in somebody else's house. I didn't necessarily realize in the moment that he was in Maddie and Xana's house. And he said they had no idea that I was there. I could have killed them all if I wanted to. So not only is he following them, he's also inside their home, and he has a 7-inch blade K-bar knife. P told me Gabe then went and got a larger knife from out of the back shed and showed him, larger than the 7-inch knife he got. P told me every time he was around Gabe and Gabe's mom would explode on him, he always stayed very calm and would not react to her. Maybe because he's taking it out on other people. This was written by James Fry, and Dollinger reviewed it on January 10th. Almost a month later. That's wild. Fry wrote this probably about a week after, because it says several days earlier. Okay. So this Gabe guy could, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, it doesn't even, I don't know if there's going to be one that shows up later that shows what happened with this lead, but as far as we know, this is like, we don't have a conclusion to this. And that's how a lot of them are. And it drives me wild. Like, do these officers have no clue how to question anybody? It's just crazy. Okay, so that was 77 that we just went over one more time, slower, and Gabe is a questionable person. Wild. We are going to go to, we did Bethany's interview. We did Bethany's interview in Reno. Then the bodies were transported to Spokane. So yeah, we are, I thought we were at 102, but I just wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything. So that one can be exited out. Cool. Now we're on this one. Alrighty. Here we go. This is 102, guys. Hi, Leslie and Billy. Hi, Rachel. Hey, Pokey, Vidrios, Elisanda. Hey, G-Wiz. Yes, G-Wiz is the one who asked me to do 77 again because I went through it really fast. It's just literally insane that they have leads like this that are never even investigated. Almost every lead that I've seen so far, they just are like, nah, cool. It was a tip. Let's continue with Brian Koberger. We have our guy. It's just a random tip. We don't need to worry about it because we have our guy. Like, what? We have our guy that doesn't have any link, any connection, anything at all other than less than a secondary transfer amount of DNA on a knife sheath found at the scene that had other people's DNA on it too. All right, this is Danny Vargas. This was written on the 10th of January. And this is the release of Dylan Mortenson's personal items. On January 4th, 2023, at approximately 10:30 in the morning, I released the remainder of Dylan Mortenson's personal property to blank L blank RR, signed for the items, signed release attached electronically to the case file. On January 5th, 2023, I learned from Bill Thompson per the recent signed court order to hold all evidence. Dylan's items fell under that order. Thompson stated his office would contact Dylan and make arrangements to have Dylan's items returned to the police station. On January 6th, it's my birthday. On January 6, 2023, Sergeant Blaker traveled to Boise and picked up Dylan's personal belongings from LR and transported them back to MPD. On January 9th, I assisted Sergeant Blaker with unloading Dylan's items from his vehicle back into MPD's secure storage garage at the City of Moscow shop. Now, the only reason I wanted to share this one, that I found it kind of important, was because there is no freaking way that you would be able to successfully or morally or ethically be able to use these items in court as any sort of evidence on this case. You already gave them back to Dylan, and then you took them back from Dylan to then possibly use them. And that chain of custody is so effed up. There's no way, if there was something of importance in there, there's no way they would have been able to use them. And that just shows you how incompetent these officers are. These officers are literally being told what to do by Bad Santa, by Bill Thompson. And they messed it up. That's all I wanted to show on this one, is how incompetent they freaking are. And that it makes me wonder how many other items or parts of this case were done like that, but there wasn't a report made because they knew if they messed up on it, it would have been torn apart by the defense. They would have never been able to use it. So I just wonder on all of the stuff we're reading, if it actually is the way it is, the way they say it is. I mean, obviously they can't be trusted, but to what extent can they not be trusted? I mean, knowing they had the state police and everybody else, the FBI working there as well. I don't know how much they would have been able to get away with, but the FBI was really there for a completely different reason. So maybe a lot. They could have possibly gotten away with a lot of crap, like messing up on crap and then not writing a report on it. But now as far as they knew at this time, it was still going to be used in court. Crazy. This is written by Danny Vargas, and this is an interview with Bryan Kohberger's neighbor, F.A. and A.A. On December 30th at approximately 6:30, I stood by while a search warrant was served at blank, the residence of Bryan Kohberger. Okay, so his parents' house. While on scene, one of the neighbors, A.A., who lived in the same building. Wait, is this at his apartment? This must be at his apartment. Okay. The residence of Bryan Kohberger. While on scene, one of the neighbors, A.A., who lived in the same building, stated her husband returned home and he might have additional information to add regarding Bryan. A had been interviewed earlier in the day by several FBI agents prior to F returning home. So this is a husband and wife, obviously. Their last name starts with an A. Detective Mowry and I met with A and F in their apartment. I recorded the conversation with my phone and informed F and A I would be recording our conversation, which they were fine with. A said she had been speaking with F about the questions she was asked, one question being if she had ever seen Bryan with anyone else. F told me they did remember a time when they returned home and said they saw Bryan sitting on the stairs leading up to his apartment next to a male. F and A described the male as having light brown skin, a sleeve tattoo on his left arm, wearing a sleeveless shirt and shorts. F said the male was riding a dark color blue or black Harley type of motorcycle. Did Kopaka have a motorcycle? Could this have been maybe Kopaka? I don't know. I'm asking you guys. Yes, and I can't wait to get to that, Rachel, about the unfreaking real, right? That they completely lost freaking blood samples. Even if that was the guy and an amazing lead, they messed it up. He could have very well been the culprit. If that blood belonged to any of the victims, there you go. But nope, they screwed it up. I mean, so Bryan obviously had one friend if he's sitting outside talking to this guy on a motorcycle. So many things are popping in my head right now, and it's going towards, I mean, all different directions. Could this be something that adds up with what Birdie says? You know, somebody leading him? Or is this maybe the other perpetrator? Or I don't know. Could this be a dealer of some sort? I don't know. A Harley type motorcycle. F said the motorcycle was not a sport bike and was very loud. F said he and A both noticed Bryan and the male talking, but said as they got closer, both Bryan and the male stopped talking and looked at them. A said Bryan acknowledged them and asked how it was going. A said it seemed as if Bryan was acting overly nice. A and F said when they walked away to their apartment, Bryan and the male were still silent and did not continue their conversation. F said he saw the male get up and heard the motorcycle start, but did not see him drive off. F and A said this was the only time they ever saw this person and or saw or heard the motorcycle. Interesting. One time. That's it. Huh. F and A said Bryan seemed like a quiet person and they remembered meeting Bryan's dad when Bryan moved in. F said Bryan's dad was very talkative. F and A said Bryan's car was always clean and neat. There you go, Bill freaking Thompson. There wasn't even a piece of junk in the side console, you know, in the door where everybody has gunk in there or junk in there. There you go, Bill Thompson. It's always clean. Even on rainy days, his car is clean. A said Brian would often park his car right in front of their bedroom window and they would notice the headlights when he came and went. F and A did not notice when or if Brian changed the plates on his car. F looked through his phone and thought, on the night of the red rums, he probably went to bed around midnight. F did not remember seeing lights from Brian's car and or knowing if Brian was home or not. F mentioned on another occasion seeing Brian return home around 1 in the morning and said he was wearing dark clothing, had a dark colored backpack, and when they said hi to him, he seemed pretty short with them. F did not remember what day this occurred, but said it was not the night of the murders. A said she worked late hours often and would also see Brian returning home around the same time she would, around 1 to 2 in the morning. We thanked them for their time and told them to contact us if they remember anything else. Our conversation with FNA was recorded and is booked onto a DVD into MPD evidence. Huh. So this guy says, F says, Brian parks right in front of their window. So they usually know, like 9 times out of 10, basically, they know when Brian comes and goes and that he usually comes home around 1 or 2. Him driving around late at night was super common for him. That's just part of his routine and what he does. It's not unusual that he could have been pinging off one of the towers in Moscow the night of the murders. And again, I'm going to say he could very well have done this crime. I don't know. But I'm just saying this evidence shows that this driving around at night, late hours in the night, is normal, and that they 9 times out of 10 would know if Brian came or left because of his headlights in their window. And the night of the murders, he didn't recall seeing lights. Not that it didn't happen, but he didn't recall seeing them. Interesting. That was 103. We're going to go to 104, which is Molly McMichaels' interview. Doobie doobie doo. There we go. Okay. This is written by Payne on January 10th. Interview with Molly McMichael. On November 23rd, so 10 days after the crime, at approximately 8:39, Molly McMichael came to the Moscow Police Department to be interviewed about her presence in the area of 1122 King Road during the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022. Molly was identified as being in the area through records obtained from DoorDash via a search warrant and was confirmed as being in the area based off a Google geofence warrant, which was obtained as a result of this investigation. I was accompanied by FBI Special Agent Alex Skelton during this interview. Molly told me she worked for 12 to 18 hours on the night of November 12th to the 13th and received 3 orders in the King Queen Road area. 2 of the orders were at the blank Queen Road apartment complex, which is immediately to the east of 1122 King Road. She said the delivery at 1122 King Road was her final order for the evening. Molly said she could not find 1122 King Road address as the address number was hidden by the porch light, which caused her to remain in the area for approximately 15 minutes. Molly also stated her Google Maps told her to go to the parking lot immediately behind 1122 King Road. Molly stated she initially parked in the front of 1122 and could see a female in the top left window, the 3rd-story bathroom. Molly said she saw the same female a couple more times in the same window, and she would duck down when Molly looked at her. So she's up to the left in the 3rd floor window, and she's ducking down. What, I mean, what would she be ducking down for? Or was she just leaving the window? I don't know. Um, Molly said she saw the same female a couple more times in the same window and she would duck down when Molly looked at her. Molly then said she drove to the back parking lot behind 1122 King Road and parked. She stated she could see the back courtyard area behind the house and noticed all of the lights were on. Molly stated her map told her to walk into the back of the house, but she did not feel comfortable doing so because there was no path. Molly said she started to walk down the road, which runs north-south, immediately to the east of the residence. Molly stated a tan sedan drove next to her while she was walking. Molly said there was one male driver and noticed he did not look at me. She said he looked completely zoned and just drove by her. Molly later stated the driver was white with blonde or red spiky hair. Now, this person could either be Jack DeCoeur or John Jack Showalter. Both of them have shorter, blondish red hair. Both of them live in the area. Both of them have vehicles. I don't know all of the vehicles they have or what color they are. I do know that DeCoeur, somebody in his family that he has a white Elantra, um, but I don't know how often he drives that vehicle. I know he has driven it. She said this vehicle was tan. We also know that Molly McMichaels was probably high as a kite as well. So I don't know if the color of the car should be given so much truth to it. Could it have been a white car that was super dirty? Could it have been I don't know. But this person has blonde or red spiky hair, was super zoned out. Could be DeCoeur or Showalter. Could be a random person too. Who knows? Molly stated she walked back up to her car and drove back to the front of 1122, at which point she saw the address numbers. Molly said she placed the order at the front door, took a picture, and then left at approximately 4. So she was there from 3:45 in the morning, basically, until 4 o'clock. So for her to say she saw Brian, wouldn't that not be true? Because didn't he not park until 4, or didn't he not park, quote unquote, until after 4? If she left at 4, how would she have seen him? During the time Molly was in the area of the King Road residence, the white Elantra can be seen via the blank King Road camera driving back and forth on Willetta Drive and then enter the King Queen Road loop at approximately 3:56 hours. Just because the camera caught it doesn't mean that she caught it. At the point Molly pulled into the front parking lot before she dropped the order off, the white Elantra pulled in behind Molly's vehicle. Gotcha. Okay. A gray Subaru Forester, and then exited the King Road at approximately 3:58. Molly did not mention seeing the white Elantra behind her at any time. I continued to question Molly about her time near the residence. She told me she walked down Queen Road at one point with her flashlight out. Sketchy. Dang, sketchy lady. Molly can be seen doing so on the footage from King Road. Molly also continued to tell me the female she saw in the upstairs bathroom window would duck down when Molly looked at her. Molly described her as having long brown hair. Molly stated she could not identify the girl as one of the victims. Long brown hair. I don't know how she could see a color from that far away. I know she said all of the lights were on, which means when the unalivers got there, all of the lights were on. Because it's literally, I mean, close to the same time, or could be. I would think it would be Xana, but I don't know why she would be ducking down. I mean, we know that Xana does Coke and Adderall. So was it Xana, and was she just being paranoid because of drugs she had taken? Maybe. I mean, it's an option. Approximately 30 minutes into the interview, S.A. Skelton requested Molly take part in a cognitive interview. Molly agreed, and S.A. Skelton began the cognitive interview. And I'm sure they did this. They did this cognitive interview to see how high she was, to see how jacked up she was, to see if she was even in a position in the correct mind frame to even be giving a statement that is any sort of credible. That's why they did that. Because I don't see them do that with anybody else but her. She must have been high as a dang kite. During this interview, Molly confirmed much of the information she already told us. Molly was able to remember she had her dog with her during one of her walks in the area, but did not clarify much more in the ways of the details of the evening. We thanked Molly for her cooperation, offered any support she may need, and concluded our interview. Subsequent investigation of video footage and cellular data showed the tan sedan Molly saw was likely a light-colored SUV which left the area. Moreover, it does not appear Molly saw the white Elantra at any point during her time near the residence. So when she said she saw Brian, she was high as a kite, and that is why witness statements effing suck. Was she lying? Was she just trying to get out of all of her cases and arrests that she was dealing with? Probably. Okay, that was 104. We're going to go to 105. Let's see here. Dun, 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 dun. Share the screen. Put it on the stage. I feel like I'm losing my voice, guys. Hey, Zoe. Hey, Pokey. Good to see you guys. CT girl. Hello, hello. True Crime X, how you doing? Good to see you. I hate that I miss so much good stuff in the chat. You guys are so awesome. I love to go back and reread them. You guys have great ideas. This was written by Maury. On December 29th, based on the above information, the Latah County Court signed an order finding probable cause for the criminal complaint charging burglary and 4 counts of murder in the first degree, all felonies. A warrant of arrest was issued for Brian C. Kohberger. I'm still not understanding where they got his name from. I mean, I know they checked vehicles and stuff, but I thought that it had been like passed over. I'm just not understanding where Brian even came from, because did they have the DNA back yet? I mean, DNA was seized basically illegally anyway. Brian Kohberger was arrested at his family's home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. That same day, a Pennsylvania magistrate signed a search warrant for the residence, which included Brian Koberger's cell phone. His cell phone was taken into evidence as part of that search warrant. His cell phone device is currently in evidence at the FBI Philadelphia Regional Computer Forensic Laboratory, located at blank. The phone data was extracted by FBI subsequent to the warrant being served. On January 9th, I received a hard drive from Tanzola, which contains a copy of the data extracted from the phone belonging to Koberger. The data is saved on Seagate 2 terabyte external USB drive with serial number blank and is labeled as Philadelphia evidence blank or whatever, 00434447. I applied for and was granted a warrant seeking the evidence from the hard drive provided by Pennsylvania, which contains a forensic image of Brian Koberger's phone, which was stored in the secured computer forensics lab at Moscow Police Department. At 3:30 on January 9th, I served the warrant on the hard drive located in the forensics lab. Pursuant to the warrant, I downloaded the files to the forensic computers located in the secure forensic computer lab at Moscow Police Department. I completed the warrant return receipt and affidavit. These documents were sent to the Latah County Prosecutor's Office to be overturned or to be returned to the court. I also left a copy of the receipt and warrant with the drive, which was placed back into evidence. I began examining the data for any accounts linked to the phone and Koberger with other electronic service providers such as Facebook, Snapchat, etc. I located the following installed applications: website history, screenshots, and usernames, passwords associated with an electronic service provider. So look, they got all the information from Yik Yak, LinkedIn, Reddit, Twitter, Tinder, Dropbox, his bank, PayPal, YouTube, TikTok, Amazon, dating app, Activision, GroupMe, NetTeller, Hulu, Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, Booking, Travelocity, Strava, NordVPN. These electronic service providers may be storing data relevant to the investigation, which may have been deleted from the device. Even if it's deleted, you can still retrieve it from Celebrite, or I'm sure FBI has another way. Just because he deleted it doesn't necessarily delete it, especially in the apps. So for them to say he wiped his phone, he may have, which is kind of strange. Like, why would you feel the need to do that? I get it. Maybe he was directed to do that by whoever, the tattoo guy. I don't know. But it's not like he wiped it, which meant you can't get anything from it. They were still, obviously, in this document, you can tell, able to get a crap ton of crap out of his phone. So just because he may have deleted it or wiped his phone or whatever, or they thought he did, doesn't necessarily mean none of the data was able to be retrieved. That's not what they say. They just say it looked like he had wiped his phone. They didn't say they couldn't retrieve the data. They obviously did, which is stupid. So why even say that? Just to make him look worse than he already freaking does? Whoops. 1 second, guys. Okay. Let's go on to 106. I'm snotty. There we go. This is the interview of Emily by Brett Payne. On November 13th at approximately 1:49, I interviewed Emily at the police department in regards to the homicide. I asked Emily what her relationship to the victims was. Sorry. She told me Kernodle was her best friend and the others were all her close friends as well. After I collected her information, I asked Emily to tell me about her day on the 12th. Emily stated she left the football game and then went to see friends of hers at an apartment near hers on Taylor Avenue. Emily stated she arrived at her apartment at approximately 8:30. Emily stated she, Jay, which is either Josie or Jenna, Hunter, and Elle all went to sleep early the evening of November 12th. Emily stated they planned to go to the blank lodge party but did not end up going. Emily stated she and Hunter woke up at approximately 1 in the morning and they stayed up watching TV until approximately 3, at which point they went back to sleep. Emily stated she woke up at approximately 10:30 on November 13th. She stated Dylan called her at approximately 11:51 that morning and said last night around 4 a.m. she heard and saw a man, and she and Bethany were locked in their room sleeping, and added she wanted Emily to come over to check the house because she was too scared. Emily also said Dylan heard Kaylee scream and run up the stairs. A while later, Dylan came out of her room and saw the man staring at her. Emily stated the man didn't do anything to Dylan. Dylan said she stayed locked in her room and heard the side door close. What side door? Did he just say it, or did he just type it wrong and it was supposed to be sliding door? But this says side door. So she ran into Bethany's room. So Dylan told Emily she heard him close the door behind him, which we know isn't true. It's like she can't keep her story straight. I asked Emily if she asked Dylan why she didn't call anyone that night. Duh. Emily stated Dylan told her it was because she was intoxicated and didn't want to believe what was going on. Dylan also told Emily the man was wearing a mask and could only see his eyes and nose. And trust me, if that was Brian Koberger, you would remember those eyes and that nose. Also, now that we know all the lights were left on as well. So you saw him. And the fact that you can't put him at the crime scene as the person that you look dead in their eyes and they look dead in yours, I find that strange. Emily stated Hunter went over to the house just before her. When Emily arrived, she stated she went upstairs but was stopped by Josie, who told Emily she didn't want to see it. Wow, so Josie saw it. Or no, that's Johnson. That's Hunter. Okay. Sorry, guys. When Emily arrived, she stated she went upstairs but was stopped by Hunter, who told Emily she didn't want to see it. And we also know that when Hunter got there, he had to put the code in the front door to get in. But remember, the neighbor that walked by saw the front door was wide open from at least 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. that morning. So we need to know who the F shut that front door to where Hunter, 45 minutes later, needed to put the key in, the PIN code in to open the front door. Because these girls are lying. Why you always lying? Why you lying? Stop all your lying. Okay. She went back outside and officers responded. I asked Emily if anything seemed out of the ordinary from what she saw. She told me there was a large party at the house on Friday on the 11th. She stated the house was a mess due to the party. She also told me she saw a knife laying on the floor at the top of the stairs when she went inside, which is also strange because remember, apparently Hunter had put the knife on the beer pong table in the living room. So why is this knife on the floor all of a sudden? Emily stated she remained outside after she walked out of the residence until law enforcement arrived. She also stated she then came to the Moscow Police Department to be interviewed. I asked Emily if she knew who would commit the murders. Emily stated she did not know. She added she and Kernodle were no longer blank sorority members, which is an interesting time to add that. In that moment, was she thinking that a female did this? That females were pissed at these girls? Very interesting. It sounds like Emily thought maybe females did this in the very beginning. That was the first thing that came to her mind. I asked her if there had been any stalking behavior or recent suspicious circumstances. Emily stated there had not been anything she could remember. She also stated there were no other conflicts with the other victims she knew of. I concluded my interview, and that is it for document 106. 107 is Hunter Chapin's interview. Let me pull this one up. 107 redacted. Yeah, Vidrios. She saw a knife on the floor, which was, I'm assuming, the knife that Hunter grabbed when he got scared. So Hunter put in the PIN code, right? He goes up the stairs. He sees what happened. He wasn't sure if somebody was still in the house. So he goes to the kitchen and he grabs, it was a large butcher knife. Yeah, you're right. It's the same knife that Hunter had. They did take these knives. I don't know if they had been tested. I don't have any idea if they were tested. I don't think they were, because they took him at his word that he grabbed it out of the kitchen. One of the officers told him to lay it on the table, which I thought he did, but for some reason, I guess maybe he laid it on the floor. I don't know. Yeah, probably not. Yeah, he did. He went into the kitchen and grabbed a knife. What did I say? Did I say something else? Yeah, Hunter went into the kitchen and grabbed a knife. Yeah, isn't that, well, I think Sweet and Salty, I think maybe Sweet and Salty says, why didn't Hunter bring a knife? He waited to get there and grab one. I think that's a good point, because on the phone, Dylan did say there was a man that came in their house at 4 a.m. I think maybe Hunter wasn't thinking and was just going to check if everybody was okay and make sure nobody was there. But you're right. Why didn't he take a knife with him, or even a bat or something, if you're going to check a house to see if anybody's in there? But I think then when he got there and saw what had happened, he then in that moment thought, oh, I'm going to go grab a knife because I don't know if this person is still in here. But you're right. I don't know why, if somebody told him, we need you to come check our house because there was somebody in our house last night, we don't know if they're still in here or not. Why wouldn't Hunter bring some sort of weapon? No idea. Very good question. The same people that put a blanket on the girls, because I don't know, a sympathetic unaliver. I think you're right, Pokey. I can't get over that. That is one detail that we didn't know before, that I'm not sure why we didn't know that. I'm not sure why we weren't told that, because, well, I mean, I am sure why they didn't tell us. They didn't tell us because that right there shows a huge connection between who did this and the victims. A person who's, going in by themselves and trying to do this crime for whatever reason, and according to the state, Brian Koberger didn't have any connection to them. So again, for whatever reason, he didn't have any motive or reason to do this. For it to be one person to be going in, their thinking, I would assume, is I want to do this, but I also need to do it as quick as possible because I've never been in this house. I don't know who's in there. I don't know who could see. I don't know who the neighbors are. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to take the time to sit to gag somebody and then cover them up. I mean, I don't think a random intruder would. I think that's more signs of somebody who knew them and at one point in their life cared about them or was ashamed of what they did to them. But I think why we didn't know that is because it shows it can't be just a random person. No random person is going to cover them up like, okay, now sleep tight. Like, no, you just unalived these people horrifically. You tortured them and then unalived them. This is by Dustin Blaker. This is 107, and this is Interview with Hunter Chapin. At around 2:19, I conducted an interview with Hunter Chapin at the police department. I'm sure it says Hunter is the brother of one of the victims. Hunter's a student at the University of Idaho and is a member of the blank fraternity. Hunter lives at the fraternity. Hunter told me he and Ethan went to a formal dinner with their sister Maisie. Maisie is a member of the blank sorority. What's wrong, buddy? What's wrong? I think Bronx has the potty. They took their sister Maisie. Maisie's a member of the whatever sorority. The formal was at around 6 o'clock at Hungadunga. After the formal was over, they went back to Ethan, Xana, and Hunter were all hanging out in his apartment room at the blank fraternity. Hunter last saw Ethan and Xana at 9 when he left his apartment to go up to the main lodge where the house party was at. Hunter returned at 9:15 and Ethan and Xana were gone. Hunter stated he went to bed at around 10 o'clock. What college kid who's partying goes to bed at 10 o'clock? What the heck? I asked Hunter if Ethan had any issues with anyone, and he told me no. I asked him if he knew if Xana had any issues with anyone, and he told me no. Hunter was not able to provide me with any further information. That is Ethan's brother, Hunter. This is an interview with JL. And that is, I think, Josie, if I'm not mistaken. You think so, Sweet and Salty? You know, that might be true only because, right, yep, exactly, Vidrios. It just so happens that every single person is sleeping during this time. How freaking convenient. I think that could be true, Sweet and Salty. She says, bullcrap, Hunter didn't like Xana, in my opinion. And you know why I agree with you on that is because after Ethan met Xana is when he started doing rugs. And I'm sure Hunter Chapin blamed Xana for that. Of course, now he's not going to say that or say anything bad about either one of them. But I think that Hunter possibly didn't like Xana as well because she got Ethan into doing rugs. This is by Blaker, document 108, interview with JL. I want to say it's Josie, right? But that looks like a longer block than for Josie. Okay, buddy, 1 minute, okay? Good boy. On November 11th, at around 2:27, I conducted an interview on Jay at the Moscow Police Department. Jay told me she lives at Taylor Avenue. Come here, buddy. Come here. She lives at Taylor Avenue. These apartments are referred to as the Whites. Jay stated she went to 1122 King Road in the afternoon of 11/12 and was hanging out with Xana. Yeah, Swampside. You're right. Everyone was covered except for Xana. I went back and forth on that in my mind. Oh, interesting, sweet and salty. Um, I went back and forth on this one. Everyone was covered but Xana. And I was wondering in my mind, my first question was that because she was the last one? Or was that because there wasn't another blanket to cover her with and they weren't going to spend time looking for one? I don't think that's the case, though. And I'm curious why she, of all people, wasn't covered, because it's not. I think she was made to watch Ethan be unalived. I think whichever perp this was, wounded her enough to have her not really fight back, but not enough to take her life. And I think they made her watch Ethan's and then finished her after that. It could have been that there just wasn't a blanket, another one, but I don't know. I have no idea. I do find that strange as well, that she was the only one not covered. And she did. Yes, Bianca, you're right. She had the most wounds. Yes, she did. She might have been. I know that they specifically said, Bill Thompson and those guys specifically said that there was no sexual component, but how much do we believe, right? How much do we believe that of the information they did give us? All right. She was hanging out with Xana. Jay stated they all went to the Whites at around 1 o'clock for different parties in the apartment complex. Ethan left to go to his sister's formal, but Jay was not sure what time that was at. She then told me where she had heard from others that Kaylee had seen some random guy behind the house when she took Murphy out to go pee. She also heard of an incident where some random guy followed Kaylee around Winco and then followed her out of the store, and she thought he tried to get into her car. Jay was not sure for sure who she heard this from, but either Bethany or Dylan could tell us more. 1 second. Bronx is really crying. He's so sweet. He just wanted a hug and a kiss. Some little attention. Somebody. You gotta wait, okay? I'll take you out in a minute. Gotta get mommy in a minute. Okay. That Kaylee saw a guy following her in Winco and that he might have tried to get into her car. Jay told me she knows Xana and Ethan do like to use Adderall when they... This is the last one, guys, because Bronx really has to go to the bathroom. I'm sorry. He's had an upset stomach, so I want to make sure he does get taken out. I will be back on tomorrow, though, just so you guys know. It'll be after work, probably around 7, but I'm going to finish this one. Jay told me, okay, that one. And then she told me she knows Xana and Ethan do like to use Adderall when they drink, but they did not know who they got it from or if they took any that night, which we know they probably did because there was the wrapped up $2 bill, the rolled up $2 bill with the blue powdery substance. She was not able to tell me anything related to the case. And that one, oh, that one's it. I thought it was longer than that. Molly's son had a job? I want that as well. No way. Molly's son worked at Winco? Is he mixed? Or is he white? Yes. Yep. Sweet and salty. It's interesting that she snorted them and Ethan swallowed them. That's interesting to me because we know that, Xana's mom struggled pretty much her whole life. And then Xana pretty much didn't have a mom because of that. I think it's crazy that she would even try any rugs at all to even possibly go down that path, knowing how her life was because of it. But people do, either they go the same route or they go total opposite route. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. She snorted her. I don't know if she had a prescription for it or not. That's something I wish we could find out. But she snorted her Adderall. In the documents that we've already gone over this one, in the documents, it says they found a rolled up $2 bill next to blue powdery substance. And in the room that they said it was in was Xana's room on her desk. Not aspirin. Oh, that was his dad that got. Oh, interesting. All right, guys, I gotta hop off. Sorry, this one was a short one. It still was about an hour and 20 minutes or so. I'll be back on tomorrow. We'll do about 2 hours worth. That should, right now we're at 109. The next one is Ava's interview. And we have about 10, about 8 on this page, 7 or 8 on that page. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then about the same 8. We have about 16 to go until we get to 150, which is pretty good. We're just going to keep going. We're going to keep doing this and digging. And then after we're done digging, we're going to try and put them together, right? We need a better timeline. We're going to put them all together, like in the right order, and tell a story with them. That's our goal. So, all right. Right, Pokey? They didn't have a shortage in Moscow. All right, guys, I'm going to hop off for tonight. If you guys want to chit chat again tomorrow, I'll be on about 7. I'll go ahead and no problem, Zoe. Thanks for being here. Yeah, we love you guys so much. I really, really appreciate you guys being here. Hey, Angie. Thank you, Angie. Don't forget to hit the like on your way out. That helps us a lot. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great night. And tomorrow, I hope you do something nice for yourself. Be kind, but more importantly, be kind to your dog and to all of your animals. Bye, guys. Have a wonderful evening. I hope everybody sleeps wonderfully tonight. I'm looking forward to that myself. All right, guys, I'm hopping off. Love you guys.